So, Northern Toy Fairs. Never been to one before, but I have now. And the one I went to was in York. So, before I show you my pickups, let me talk a little bit about the fair. So, my experience of toy fairs has been limited really to BP fairs at Doncaster and Bolton up to this point. I have been to the NEC in Birmingham once, and I would say that this was kind of on a par with Birmingham in terms of the overall layout of the place. So it was in a sort of modern sports centre, which was nice because great big tall ceilings, so you don't feel like you're crammed in. It wasn't a massively sunny day, so we weren't cooked either, which is also good. But there was a lot of space between the rows of stalls because I don't think they sort of overfilled it, which I actually think is a very, very sensible approach because, you could obviously get more revenue in if you've got more stalls in, but when it gets busy, you really need the elbow space. Now, early bird worked as it normally does, much quieter, 2 clear hours in the morning had I arrived that early, when you could just sort of wander around relatively calmly, relatively quietly, and just see what was there, basically. And as you'll see on the video of the various stalls that I did, even when it was busy, it wasn't manic. It was perfectly comfortable in there. There were tea and cakes down one end. You could sit down at several tables there and just chill out if you wanted to. I think there were lavatories on the outside of the hall, so you could sort of go out, do what you need to do, come back in again, get your hand stamped for your re-entry, all the sort of normal stuff basically. Ample parking and some additional parking if you needed it. Free parking on site. A little bit of a walk to get in. Looked like it was quite straightforward for traders to unload as well. There was a separate doorway that opened for them, and they could park right outside it. So, if you happen to be a trader for some reason watching this and don't already know about it, again, pretty straightforward. And the good thing about the traders there, from my point of view, was that they weren't all traders that I was familiar with, because some had come from further north and would otherwise have been the case had this have been down in Doncaster. And I was saying to someone today, it was the weirdest sense of deja vu for me driving into York, because I used to be there. I used to live there for a number of years. But I haven't driven into York for ages. That was just weird. It was like constant deja vu as I was driving up. I think it was the A19. And I was like, this is really odd. So for me, it had a lot of sort of resonance going even before I actually got there. So that was fun. I needed about an hour to get round to really have a sort of good solid look around and figure out exactly who was who and what was what. And then I stayed for another good couple of hours after that, actually getting stuff. Now, the one cautionary tale that I wanted to pass on here before in sort of opening this video before I get to the pickups is that there were some things that I might have chosen to pick up, but I didn't pick them up on my sort of first walk around. And when I came back, they had been pinched. And it was interesting in the sense that presumably they were pinched by people who went through exactly the same thought process that I did when I first saw them and didn't pick them up. So there was things like a loose Jake Rockwell from Centurions, gone. There was a very old Lego Technic car, which was actually the first Technic car I ever had, which had a sort of a working engine, steering, and it had the brochure with it. And it was built up, so you could see it was basically complete. And I passed on it because I thought I can't think of where I'm going to put it, so I'm not going to bother with it because it's big and it's bulky, and I'd probably have to go back to the car with it, which kind of defeats the point of me trying to look around. Very nice chap selling it, but I couldn't really sort of make 2 and 2 come to 4 on that occasion. So I skipped it and it had gone. I think there were 1 or 2 other things that again, I had a sort of a vague hankering after, but didn't feel a huge urge to commit. Oh, there was a little twin. There was a die-cast Kennard twin pod, which would have been an upgrade to my childhood one, which you might have seen on a video recently. And I thought about picking one of those up. That had gone as well. So it's like somebody was following me around, looking at what I was picking up, and picked them up instead, which is irritating. But it did make me grateful for the stuff that I had picked up early doors, because I realised that had I not done that, someone else might have grabbed it. So I'm not saying that you have to be paranoid and sort of immediately grab stuff that you see, but if you do have something you particularly want, then it probably is worth getting it sooner rather than later, because at the end of the day, you don't have dibs on it. You know, with the best will in the world, you do not have dibs on it, so somebody else could pick it up. Now, maybe you'd be able to, to put something on one side. I don't know, it's possible. But, I don't think you can really expect people to hold on to things for too long, because if they've got other buyers, they've got other buyers. Some of the stuff on the video that I saw as well, which I didn't even notice when I was going around myself. I noticed there was a Toy Biz Batmobile in a box. Would have been half tempted by that if I'd seen it, because I do have a loose one, but I don't have one in a box. So that would have been a nice thing to have had I spotted it, basically. And this always happens. You always spot stuff after the event that you think, oh yeah, that would have been cool. It's just the way of it. And equally, there were some things that I did really think hard about. There were some things I asked the price on and then went pale when told what the price was and walked away from. So I felt like I had quite a sensible day, broadly speaking. I only got things that were things that I would normally get that were in my ballpark. I asked about some very interesting things, one of which I couldn't even get a price for, which was the Hoff, because the gentleman didn't really know how to price it. And I thought, that was very honest of him, But there were some really, really interesting things there. And because it was that little bit smaller than Doncaster, I felt like I'd probably seen most of it in reasonable time. So I knew what was there, and I knew I could sort of make some fairly reasoned decisions, because I had time to come to those decisions about what I actually wanted to pick up. So, yeah, I got a couple of really sort of good deals which you were about to see. I got some completely random stuff, which is always the way with me, and I got some stuff which somehow seems to be the stuff that I always pick up, even though allegedly I'm not collecting it. But anyway, you will see, and the pickups will follow right now. This video. And let's start strong with a traditional pickup for me, which is of course a kaiju from Pacific Rim, the original film, because we don't talk about the other one. This is Axe Head, because he's got an axe on his head, basically. I actually thought this was the Jaeger that originally took out, the kaiju that originally took out Gypsy, but it isn't. This is the one that we first see as the first kaiju that is chopping up the Golden Gate Bridge, and is eventually nuked and successfully downed, but not until he's done a lot of damage, of course, along the way. Now, Joe always knows this better than I do. Probably a NECA one, I think, but it's so big. He's a big, chunky boy, and I love him. He's very, very cool. Just one of these. Somehow I seem to be sniffing these out these days, even though I'm not really looking to get them all. I'm just finding them. So nice to pick up. And this was, it was just a family randomly selling him in amongst other things they were randomly selling. So I just grabbed him. So yeah, nice pick up that fairly early doors actually. Met that family again later on actually and had a chat about my camera. I also got this from them, which is a tricorder. I do not have a tricorder. This is a Playmates tricorder, and it does work, and I will show this to you properly on a Trek Toys video in due course, but it is actually surprisingly cool given its size. Battery compartment had a little bit of gunk in it, but I managed to sort that out, so it will work happily. So yeah, it's very cool, and it just folds up into its little sort of box mode, and then you can just slot it onto your belt like that. Nice. Very cool. Staying on the Trek theme. I'm conscious that I'm romping through this, but you know, there are a few bits to show you. Not loads and loads actually, but a few. Let's have a look at this one. Now, I would not have, for a million years, have thought I would A, find this, and B, walk away with it for the amount I didn't pay for it. Now, it's not in the best shape, but nonetheless, this is a carded Corgi Star Trek II set, which I don't think you come across that often. And what you get here is the Klingon battle cruiser, which doesn't really appear in the film, apart from in this brief simulation bit, and the little Corgi Enterprise, which you don't see very often, and you know, you don't see very often on a card. And I cannot believe that he let me walk away from the stall having only paid what I paid for it, but nonetheless, he did. I think he kind of knew that he'd given me a bit of a bargain actually, but for some reason it didn't really seem to fuss him. So yeah, just remarkable thing to find, just in the wild, in amongst other things. In fact, although yeah, I mean, it's branded Corgi, but you can very clearly see the Matoy TM Company Limited mentioned on the front there as well at the bottom. Great, from Great Britain, of course. So just a really nice thing to randomly pick up out of the blue. So yeah, I mean, I've already got them loose. I have examples of them, but getting it on a card is just a nice display thing to have. Bubble's not perfect. He told me that much. I could see that much. I wasn't, you know, he was totally upfront about that. So from the sublime to the possibly slightly ridiculous. This is a really weird one. This was life imitating eBay, because eBay had thrown one of these at me. Literally the day or so before, I then came across this to pick up. Now I've just forgotten what his Insta is, but I have mentioned him in the just the description for the video. But it has robot in it. Now I'm gonna have to recite this based on an AI scan of it. This is a toy based on the vehicle from the 1986 Japanese Metal Hero series, Jiku Senshi Spielban, Space Time Warrior Spielban. So this is a super dimensional battleship Grand Nazca. It's also a pew pew. Those of you on headphones, turn your volume down. Ready, set, go. Told you. Now, it's sort of holding handle / grip on the bottom there splits in two, and I'm not quite sure if it ends up being a robot at the end of the day. That I'm not convinced of, but it does have a slight transformation kick to it, and these tracks on either side there can kind of fold away. So needs a little bit of a clean up, but it seems to be quite complete, relatively speaking, and the battery just slots into this rather unsubtle battery compartment. Gentleman also threw in this little figure guy as well, so I assume he's the what was it, space-time chap? What was his name? Hang on. Yeah, so that presumably is the Space-Time Warrior Metal Hero chap, I guess. And it's a Bandai DX, apparently, this. And its toy is based on a Japanese tokusatsu series, so basically it's a Sentai show. Yeah, okay, cool. All good. Right, so let's move him off. So he definitely needs a little bit of a clean up, but we can have a look at that in due course. Now then, what else? What else? These guys are quite nice. I picked these up quite early doors actually. It was quite funny. I said, "What's your best price on these three?" And the guy sort of looked at me and then offered me a discount, as if I'd said something rude. It was like, well, this is what you do, isn't it? Now these are fun, and I was fairly confident in what they were, but I have sort of checked since. Now, these are Matchbox vehicles, but they are Matchbox Adventure 2000 vehicles. And these are the little ones. And then what they did was they sort of repurposed things like, I think they called it the Cosmobile. So they'd release some sort of futuristic-esque vehicles in a general line. Then they painted them green and gave them funky purple windows, which is what attracted me to these for some reason. And these versions of those existing vehicles were used as part of a gift pack of Adventure 2000 Matchbox series vehicles. So I just think they're really cool. The hovercraft's been in everything, and you know, lots of nice sort of chrome on display. But I just really like them as little vehicles. I think, you know, they're just cool, and they'll display nicely with my other Adventure 2000 vehicles, which are larger than these. So yeah, I just thought it was a cool little set. And see them all three of them all together at once as well, I suspect is probably quite unusual. So, and they're very, very nice condition. They're really nice and clean. So I just thought, yeah, it would be rude not to pick up those examples whilst I spy them, of course. Because as I discovered over the course of the day, it is sometimes important to grab things early. What else did we get? Let's have a look. This is an interesting little chap. I got this from Raiders of the Lost Toys. Now, I saw him and I immediately thought, odd, is this a battle beast with some sort of repro weapon? Because I've never seen a battle beast with a great big purple weapon. My normal battle beasts all have much more sort of sedate weapons like this, which are just sort of silvery. So you can see, you know, he's exactly the right sort of scale and everything else. So I wasn't too concerned about it not being a battle beast. It just felt to me like it could be a repro weapon, because I'd never seen one with a bright purple weapon before. But this is apparently a Series 3 battle beast. This is the ossified orangutan. No, I am not making that up. They made it up first. I'm just telling you what they made up. It's the ossified orangutan, which in theory means he's made of stone, but clearly he isn't, because he's not. So he's got a great big cyborg arm thing going on. Interestingly, to my mind, the reason he was puzzling me slightly is that you can see he has his chest rub, but his chest rub is off center. And apparently this was a thing with the Season 3 Battle Beasts. They all had their chest rubs on offset to one side, so that presumably distinguishes them, and that's what they did with the later ones. So I was immediately sort of puzzled as to why he seemed somehow off to me, and I'd never seen these before. These are quite late, so I think these are harder to find, and I only grabbed one. But you know, I just thought it would be interesting to have in the collection, because he is different and distinct from the other battle beasts that I currently have. So that was a nice thing to find, and as I say, you know, apparently quite unusual to have. What else did I get from Loft Toys? Well, I got this is funny. I actually thought he'd gone, and then I realised he was still there. It's Dilbert. I don't know. Now, he said to me, there have been a grand total of approximately 2, including yourself, people who recognise who the heck Dilbert is. He's been cancelled effectively, because apparently he's no longer, you know, period appropriate or whatever. So he's a slightly battered example, but he's got his trademark tie and spec and weird hair, and he's still got his original tag on as well, which is nice. So yeah, created by Scott Adams, and Scott Adams has unfortunately been a bit cancelled, I think, now. I'm not sure if he's still doing cartoons or not, but he comes from a sort of comic strip that appeared in papers, and he also had his own paperback books that he got published in as well, the good old Dilbert, and it was sort of this very sort of cutting commentary on the practices of IT firms and the like, and what they did and didn't do well, and so forth. So it was just if you were into your IT at the right sort of time, it was all horribly familiar in some respects. So I couldn't not leave I couldn't not take Dilbert, rather. I couldn't leave him, I had to take him. So I did. So that is Dilbert. He's made out of some weird plastic that's probably going to do something, well, or sort of rubber that's going to do something horrible over the long term, I suspect. Now I think I'm actually nearly there. I'm nearly there with pickups. However, I did weaken, and I did pick up something that I know that others have have dissed somewhat. And I got this little Hot Wheels. I can actually do with a little bit of a prop here because they don't stand up very well by themselves. So let's prop this up. So this is just Hot Wheels Optimus Prime, just the cab. And as Gareth once pointed out to me, this has rather sort of odd pipe stacks. So his pipe stacks are this sort of odd kind of, they're sort of black, but not quite black. It's kind of an odd thing. The guy at the stall described them to me as being translucent. And I sort of went, really? But he's kind of right. They're not quite solid plastic. It's really odd. So for some reason, they've chosen not to chrome them. But I quite like it as a little Optimus, just as a little sort of standalone. So HW screen time 2025. So it's quite current. You can probably still find this, but it's Optimus Prime. What's not to like? That wasn't the only thing I bought from that stall. I did weaken a little bit further because he also had Optimus with his great big trailer on him. So I had to get that as well. I didn't have to, obviously, but I chose to. So again, this is where you notice the difference immediately, of course, is that the wheels are slightly different, which is odd because you thought they'd have stuck with the same wheels. But the pipes are nice bright silver, chrome. So as you would kind of perhaps more expect. So it's not quite even the same cab, weirdly. It's broadly the same mold. I'm just looking at it. Yeah, it's the same mold, but they've obviously chosen to put slightly different tyres and so on it for no apparent reason. So nice sort of long trailer there. No idea if the trailer opens at the back. Not really planning on getting it out again. This is just a nice thing for display because you've got a nice image of him there, as if he's sort of on a sort of a Hot Wheels car track kind of delivery place, that sort of thing. So quite like that as a thing to have. And then I got another thing from that stall, which I'd never seen before, and I hadn't heard anyone ever mention to me. And it's Ultra Magnus. Now, I never had an Ultra Magnus when I was little. I knew of him from the comics, of course. I probably even saw him around, but I always felt that his robot form was a bit daft from the toy. The comics, absolutely fine with, no problem with that. He looked cool, but I always felt the actual toy looked a bit daft. I'm not even sure that I realised at the time, if I'm honest, that part of him was actually a white Optimus Prime. that might have been lost on me because in the comics that I was looking at the time, the UK Transformers comic, you never really saw that. You just saw him go from his trailer straight into his combined armoured form. You didn't see the white Optimus element. That would only come in later toys, I think. So when I saw this, I just thought, do you know what? I feel it would be rude if I didn't pick him up. And interestingly, one that I saw on another stall, it was earlier in the day, so that helped me to sort of talk him down price-wise for all three. But the one that I saw on the stall earlier in the day had disappeared by the time I got back to that stall, interestingly. So presumably these are quite sought after. Now that's interesting. So the other ones that are mentioned at the top of this card back here, Prime isn't mentioned there, which I find quite surprising. I'm just wondering what year this is. Made in Malaysia, interestingly. I can't immediately spot a year there, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. But I don't know if that's the same. I'm assuming it's the same sort of era as the big Prime with the trailer, and yet, as I say, they're not showing. And interestingly, again, the trailer Prime doesn't mention Ultra Magnus on the back either, but does have some of the same. Or does it? Oh no. So this must be a different. Maybe they're either different series, or they can't display the whole series on the back of each packet, perhaps. I did see this. I did see the Hype Hauler one, which had the superheroes on the side of it. That was there, but that's kind of curious. So I don't know if they're slightly different series between them all. But they're both they're both designated as being track fleet. So yeah, I don't really know what the crack is with those, but they were nice. That was a nice sort of trio to pick up all in the same place. Not that I was looking for it at all. So I think that is my lot and your lot. Oh, actually no, pardon me a moment. I tell a lie. I'll keep the audio going because I don't have to go that far. Yes, in fact, yes, there's more than one bit actually. It wouldn't be me going to a toy fair if I didn't pick up a teeny tiny Starfighter from Corgi Junior Starfighter from Buck Rogers, of course. I felt it would be rude not to rescue it because it just would have been. So might have a home for that. I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit battered as Starfighters go, but you know, as I say, it's rude not to pick one up when I see one. I also got some little bits and bats. I got a little measuring device because I may have need for that to assist with something. I just also got these from this was from the Rutherland Model Stores place. It's come a long way to be there. So just got some little files to sort of rub stuff down with should I need it, because it's just something I lack is a sort of a very fine sandpaper tool. So I just thought those might do in the alternative. So yeah, I think that is now finally all of my pickups. So it's some very sort of familiar pickups for me. I keep on picking up Kaiju and Battle Beasts and all of that sort of good stuff. But some more oddities there. Hot Wheels I don't normally pick up. Corgis I don't normally pick up. Certainly not on cards. And it's been a while since I picked up anything Matchboxy as well, actually, and the odd Playmates item. So all in all, quite a sort of a good haul really when all was said and done. And I wasn't going with anything in particular in mind, so I didn't particularly miss anything. But I will already have spoken to you about some things that did vanish that I might have got, but again, not too fussed they've gone. So clearly I didn't need them that much. So yeah. So let's just do a little. It just make me laugh just how random all this stuff ends up looking by the end. But yeah. Ugh, I can't even get him to stand up by himself. Well, this one's got fixed feet, so let's put him there. He's probably going to fall over onto my Starfighter. He's die-cast, he can take it. It's fine. Come on, Kaiju, you've got a big, great big tail you can sit on as well. Let me just bring the camera back a little bit whilst I arrange these. So yeah, it's a pretty random collection as pickups go, but it was fun. It was fun. And I had some good chats with people as I went round as well, which is always a nice thing to do. I don't know where to put him now. Sorry, Starfighter, I've completely obscured you. Let's put you down there. Random tools. Funny. But yeah, I mean, considering it's not as big as Doncaster, there's still a really sort of good range of stuff there. You might have thought that I would have struggled on the basis that it was that little bit smaller, but actually there was some familiar faces and some new faces as well, which was nice. So I think because it's nearer to sort of Newcastle kind of area, you're getting sellers there that you wouldn't see in Doncaster, which doesn't happen very often from my point of view, because obviously I intend to go to the fairs that are more Doncaster orientated. So yeah, so that is my haul. There we go. So it is as ever with me, quite the eclectic mix there of randomness. But yeah, it was a fun day. So I cannot complain. All right, I shall leave you there for this one then. Cheers for now.